and welcome to another card making video. Today I'll show you how to make this gorgeous watercolor card using the emboss resist technique. I used distress inks with water to create this cool water effect for the background, and then I just added a stripe of vellum with a silver embossed sentiment on top to not cover the background too much. For the cardstock, I'm using a Winsor & Newton watercolor paper. This is in the shape of a postcard. It's 6 to 4 inches and it weighs 140 pounds. It's very thick and I think it's perfect for a watercoloring because it doesn't bend when absorbing the water. Now I'm embossing the background using my embossing buddy to get rid of all the static, and I'll be stamping this gorgeous background stamp using my Versamark ink. As you can see, my stamp is a little dirty. I once used pigment ink, black pigment ink, and I didn't clean it right away. It left some stains, but it doesn't leave marks when I use it anymore. I guess I'll have to buy some of the stamp cleaner. As you can see, I'm putting the cardstock onto the stamp and pressing to get the perfect image instead of stamping the stamp onto the cardstock. I think this gives much nicer impression. And now we have the whole stamp on the cardstock. You can't maybe see it so well, but after I put embossing powder, which I'm using here, it's opaque white wow embossing powder, you'll be able to see all the gorgeous swirls on the background. And there you go. This is how the embossing before heat treated looks like. Now I'm gonna heat set all the embossing powder on the background, and you'll see how it looks like after it's melted into the cardstock. And now all the embossing powder is melted onto my background. I'll start working on the watercoloring. I will be using 3 distress inks: picked raspberry, worn lipstick, and festive berries, some water, and a paintbrush, a soft one. But before I will start watercoloring, I'll adhere my card onto my mat using some painter's tape. Now my background is adhered properly and it won't move. I'm gonna use acrylic block onto which I'm gonna press my inks and then spray them with some water to get my watery colors. Now I think it's best to go over your background with some water before you start painting, and that allows the later applied ink to blend well together. And now I'll start applying the ink. You can see how well it resists the embossed swirls of the background. And also in a second you'll see how well it blends with the other colors, creating the ombre effect that we wanted to achieve. Now all the colors are blended. That doesn't mean that you can't go back and take some color off or add some more if you're not happy with the look of the background. And now I'm gonna use my heating tool to dry the background. Of course, you don't have to use the heating tool, you can just leave it out to dry, and it will be just as gorgeous, if not maybe better, because then you are not forcing the water to go sideways, for example. Now I'll just trim off the edges of the background. Now I'm gonna score my card base. I will be using a standard card size, which is 5.5 to 4.25. I had to check if my background fits the standard card size, or I would have to trim it, but it looked perfectly fine. Now I will work on the sentiment, which I will stamp with Versamark on a piece of vellum. Now the one I'm using is actually a tracing paper by Canson. It's used by architects in drawing plans, so I'm not sure if that's the same thing, but it looks exactly the same as vellum. Again, I'm using my embossing body to get rid of all the static and have the sentiment stamped perfectly. And then when I add embossing powder, which I'll be using a silver wow embossing powder here, will not stick to any other areas but the ones stamped with Versamark. I'm using the word love as a sentiment from my Christmas sentiments stamp set. I'm using my a piece of cardstock that I always use for just silver embossing powder to get rid of all the excess embossing powder, and now I'll just heat set the silver embossing on the vellum. Now that's done, I'm gonna assemble my card using some tape adhesive, and Tombow Multi-Mono liquid glue to adhere the background to my card base. Card is done. I must confess that when I came up with the idea for this background, I liked it so much that I didn't want to cover it up at all. And that's how I came up with the sentiment on the vellum idea. I guess that's why I like card making so much. There's always so many possibilities. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you like what you saw, and if you did, drop a comment and press like. Till the next time.